Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 308. My opponent kicked off with e4 here, and I played c5, the Sicilian defense. And he countered with the d4, the very exciting Smith-Morra Gambit. So I took the pawn, which you can do even if you decide to decline the Gambit, and c3 is the way to continue and turn it into a real Gambit. This knight f3 line, I think that's just a way to try and round the pawn back up. So you get back more into normal Sicilian lines after that. But c3 is the way to get into the Smith-Morra Gambit, and taking is the way to accept the Gambit. But I declined the Gambit with knight f6. And after e5 and knight to d5, you'll see the numbers suddenly jumped up, right? In this position, there's only eight games in this exact position in the database, but after e5, it's up to 300. What's happened is we've transposed into a line of the Alpine Sicilian, where white would play c3 and then d5 later. So this is a reasonable opening for both sides. And the most common move here is knight f3, but c takes d4 is a way to play. And then my move here is not precise. I need to play either c6 or e6 or d6. Probably d6 is what I would play here. Let's erase the other one. I mean, e6 supports the knight, which sometimes comes under fire, so it has some sense. But d6 just immediately counterattacks the structure in the center and opens up a line for the bishop. So I think that's the most logical way to play. So I played knight c6, and after this I'm actually in a bit of trouble. My opponent plays knight c3, not a move in the book, but one that's pretty strong. And now I really need to actually take that knight, or play e6 here. Okay, I didn't like e6 here because he can take my knight and I have to take back with a pawn, and I have these weird doubled pawns on the d file. But maybe if that's the best way to play, I should play that way. So I played knight b6, and now we're out of the book, but also white has a bigger than normal opening advantage. He's got kind of a dominant center here, and my pieces have been pushed over to the side, so I'm in a bit of trouble here. And he plays pretty well here, taking advantage of this. Knight f3. And now I go with e6. I need to hold back the push of d4 to d5. And but previously I had the idea of taking this pawn with my knight if he pushed. But now in this position, after he played knight f3, that pawn's protected. So I had to play this move e6 to stop that pawn from coming forward and basically pushing my pieces off the board. So he continues developing. Good logical moves, and I go d6 now, striking back at the center, trying to undermine it. He castles, and I take. So we get this position where white's got advantage in development and also advantage in space. So white is doing really well in this position, and I have to play carefully. And I survived for a while here, so let's see how it goes. Bishop e3, just developing moves. And knight d5, I think this is a good move. It's on the list. It wasn't the top choice of the engine, but the point is this knight on b6 was not really contributing to the game. It looks like white in this position is gearing up for a kingside attack, and I really need to get this knight over to defend and maybe support the push to f6. So he plays queen e2, and now I castle. It looks like knight takes e3 should have been played. I was wondering about that. It's a hard choice, but castling gets me in a bit of trouble. So rook f d1. Well, cancel that. Rook f d1 was played. So right here is where I make my first mistake, other than that opening mishap. I need to get my queen out of the glare of the rook and bishop. The bishop can come here with tempo check, winning my queen if this knight weren't in the way. So I need to just get my queen out of the way. But I thought I had time to take over here, and I missed a trick here. So actually he can take on h7 immediately. And if I don't want to be just down a pawn for nothing and an exposed king, I need to take the bishop back. And what I was thinking was he'll take my queen, I'll take his queen with check, and then take his rook back, so I'll be fine. But he has one move here, only one move, but it's all you need. Queen c2 check. He moves his queen with check, gets it out, gets it away from the attack of my knight. My king has to respond, and then he picks up my queen. So I got two pieces for the queen, but he also picked up a pawn, and he's winning, winning by a significant margin. And after bishop takes h7, it's no better to move the king away like that. He just picks up my knight, and so he's gained a pawn. He's opened up my king side, and basically white's in great shape. I have to move my queen out of the way. So that was white's chance to really put the game away. So we didn't calculate that out to the finish. I guess it's a little tricky. After knight takes c3, you have to see bishop takes, king takes, queen here check to get out of the attack of the knight. That's the key move, and then you can take my queen. So he missed that and took my knight, still leaving him with all his sort of positional advantages with the space and the development. But that was his chance to really put me away. So I moved my queen out of the glare of his rook and bishop after he takes, and then he develops with bishop to d4. Not develops, he defends the pawn because queen c7 attacks the pawn. And actually bishop d4 is a slight inaccuracy from white. Bishop f4 is the recommended move. I guess it's a more active post. The bishop here, it seems to be reinforcing this pawn chain, but it doesn't have a lot of scope from that square. And now b6, the engine approves of my move, just allowing my bishop to develop along this diagonal, probably to that square. Get a good diagonal for the bishop. And so he launches a kingside attack. But you see, after that one inaccurate move from white, suddenly the game is about even. And so I'm doing okay at this point. Keep developing. He goes with knight g5. And here, my next move is another mistake, which allows an attack which he didn't quite take advantage of. I played g6 to try and chase the knight away. And I was expecting him to play queen h5, but he has another move here, another way to attack queen e4, which I didn't appreciate, but this is quite strong. Well, it's a checkmate threat, so I have to do something about that. And all these other moves lead to mate. f5, rook fc8. Yeah, I was thinking, f5 is often something you can play in a position like this, but it's a bit dangerous here. His knight is covering the escape squares of my king, and I don't have a knight to take back. Sometimes, if you've got a knight on the d5 square, you can play f5, and then when he takes en passant, then you can come back with a knight to f6 and defend with the knight, defend the h7 square. But I'm not set up for that. This knight has been traded off. So my only defense here is to play g6, blunting the diagonal, and then he has this tactic, knight takes e6. And this forks my queen and my rook, and if I take the knight, then the queen comes in here, and this is checkmate. My king has no move other than king h8, and that's a mate in two. So after knight takes e6, I can't take the knight. The engine is recommending knight takes d4. Let's see how this would go. Knight takes d4. He takes my queen, and then I take his queen. Bishop takes e4. But this is still good for white. Yeah, I can't believe that's a way to play. Knight takes d4. Okay, I grab a bishop. That's what he's saying. I get a piece. He gets a queen. I get a queen. And then he gets a rook. And I get this piece. He takes. And my knight goes somewhere. Say knight back to c6. So I've got a rook in two pieces, and he's got two rooks in one piece. So I'm down the exchange, and he has a pawn. So he has a pawn and the exchange, and that's probably a winning advantage for for white. So let's back up. So that one maybe was not so easy to see. The other one, I think maybe if my opponent had thought about it a little bit, he might have found the other tactic. But this one is a bit tricky. Queen e4 is a natural looking move to set up this threat, but g6 looks like a defense. So we really have to see the knight takes e6 threat here. And also the fact that the discovered attack on the queen is met by an attack on my queen. Okay, pretty interesting. So he played queen h5 in this position, and so now once again the position is about even. I can hold on here with correct defense. So I tray rook a to d8. It says knight takes d4 should have been played immediately. I find this move at a little bit later point. And now he's got knight takes e6, which he finds here. And I take the knight. It's not deadly to take the knight in this case because there's not that mate threat. In the other position, the queen was taking on g6, but I haven't played g6 in this position. So, but he gets queen g6 anyway, and it looks pretty dangerous. I was thinking I should play rook to f5, but then I realized he's got knight takes, or queen takes e6 check, just picking up the rook, so that looked pretty dangerous. But let's see, the engine is recommending rook f5 is the best way to defend. Rook f5, queen takes e6 check. Oh, I can drop the rook back to f7. Aha. So, and then queen back to g6, threatening mate again, and bishop takes. Well, I have rook takes here. I thought, oh, but this mate threat is serious. I have to play bishop takes h4. To give my king an escape square. So the check here, the king can run in this fashion. It's hiding behind the rook from the threat of the queen. Okay, so that would have been a way to defend. And it would have been a more accurate move than what I played. I played knight takes e5 immediately, hitting the queen. And now he has queen takes e6 check. That's good for white. This would go queen takes e6 check. I could bring the knight back to f7, and then queen to g6 again, and now knight to e5. This is interesting. I thought I would be getting in trouble here. Okay, this will be similar to the game. He gets to chase my king around. Queen f5 check. Okay. So anyway, yeah, the attack continues. After knight takes e5, he should take the pawn. Instead, he went for the check immediately. Queen takes h7. It's similar in some ways, but there's one key difference here. And actually, the best, after queen takes h7 check, the best he has is a perpetual. So I go here to f7. It's my only move. And then queen back to g6 would... wouldn't this force a perpetual? Oh, my knight is guarding g6. He doesn't have the perpetual. So how does this go? Oh, bishop takes e5. Queen takes. And now he has the perpetual with queen g6 check. He can chase my king back here, just to put it on the board. Queen g6 check. The king has no moves. It can't escape here because of the queen, so it comes back. And he can repeat. And that's a draw. So he's playing for a little bit more here. He's trying to continue the attack with bishop g6. But I have this one escape square. And it's important that I'm guarding the f4 square here, so he can't just retreat his bishop and threaten to come here with the queen. So he's actually losing in this position. His pieces are a little bit uncoordinated. The material, yeah, he sacked a piece, so he's down a whole piece to start with. So if the attack doesn't yield anything, then he's losing. So he tries retreating his bishop again to open up some squares for his queen and come in, threaten mate right there. Incidentally, but I have the move bishop to c5. The engine likes it. So bishop to c5 opens up an escape square for my king. And so he tries queen g6 check, but I still have this square to run to. And then he went to e1 to attack my queen. But this loses, yeah, because now that my king has cleared the f-file, I have a rook here and a bishop here. So the bishop, in addition to clearing an escape square for my king, was also attacking on f2. So it's important to look for those moves that both defend and attack, because at the key moment you're going to need those counterplay ideas to get back in the game. So after king h1, I just take here. And now there's a forced mate. I'm threatening just to bring the rook down to f1 and checkmate the king because my queen is guarding the escape square. And there's no defense with best play. It's a mate in 7. So my opponent resigned at this point. Pretty exciting game. He definitely, I gave him a couple chances to win, so I think on a better day he probably could have put me away, but it's always interesting to see those tactics. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.